top 5 ways to avoid putting on weight throughout the holidays. The number one way is for you to focus on, you want to keep your body active during that time of the year. I'll delay my calories as much as possible, have a massive plant-based green smoothie, a block of tofu with a ton of vegetables, and then for dinner, I'm gonna enjoy myself. Set some boundaries for yourself. Putting that food on a pedestal, being like, it's special, I need to have it. There's nothing special about it, it's just another food. Win the next meal, win the next workout. This always bends my mind a little bit. Did you know that 61.9% of those of you who listen to the show regularly haven't subscribed to the show? So if I could ask you a big favor before we start, if you like the show and you like what we do here and you want to support us, the free simple way that you can do that is simply by hitting the subscribe button below. As we don't run ads on the podcast to provide the best uninterrupted experience possible, and my commitment to you is that if you subscribe, that I'll do everything in my power, my team and I, to ensure that this show is better for you every single week. And we will continue to listen to your feedback. We will find the guests that you want me to speak to and continue to do what we do. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. I am your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and today we're going to talk about the top 5 ways to avoid putting on weight throughout the holidays. So I want to record this episode because this is my last solo episode before Christmas. There's going to be another one with a Fit Vegan member that's going to come out probably a few days before, but that was recorded a while back. So this is my last chance to talk to you guys before Christmas, before some damage is being done. And so I want to share 5 things with you that I've shared with our Fit Vegan clients that I think would benefit you as well in your own transformation as we're entering, potentially the hardest time of the year when it comes to managing your weight, right? And I feel that's why potentially a lot of people are inspired to start in January and get a great transformations because they went so off track throughout the holidays, or potentially because people have worked so hard throughout the year that is their time to relax and indulge. And so I don't want to prevent you from relaxing and enjoying yourself. I just would like to put some healthy metrics around them so that you are able to, potentially lose some weight and get fitter, or if we can even just not put on weight throughout the holidays, and it's beautiful. That way you're not prolonging the duration of your transformation, okay? So we want to either minimize the damage or make some progression. We don't want to go in the negative ultimately. All right, so the number one way is for you to focus on eating high nutrient density foods, right? We can also call those whole food, plant-based foods. The reason why I talk about high nutrient density is because I like to gamify this process. So throughout the holiday season, or when there's birthdays or family gatherings or things like that, and I know that I'm going to have big meals with people that potentially don't eat the same way that I do, potentially don't live the same way that I do, I try to gamify how much nutrient density I can get into my body before I get to that meal. Because typically it's going to be a dinner, right? For New Year's Eve, for Christmas Eve, for Christmas, and for New Year's and all that. Usually the indulgence of food will happen later on in the day. And so throughout the whole day, I'm just going to play a game of what is the most amount of nutrient density I can get into my body until I get to that meal. By focusing on getting high nutrient density, it forces me to focus on foods that do contain more nutrients. And a lot of those foods tend to be lower in calories. Think of fruits and vegetables, right? Nuts and seeds do have some vitamins and nutrients, but they aren't as loaded as fruits and vegetables. And so I'm going to load up on fruits and veggies throughout the day. And ultimately, that's going to be lower calorie. It's going to satiate me because there's a lot of fiber. My nutrient receptors are going to be satisfied because I am consuming a lot of nutrients. And then by the time I get to my dinner, several things have happened when I've done that game plan. One is I feel phenomenal because I ate healthy food all day. And so therefore I have way less or no craving at all to eat some of the oily, salty, sugary food that's going to be available at that dinner. Because I'm going to feel so good and I feel my body so pure, I'm less likely to want to eat these foods and contaminate how I feel. The other thing that happens as well is I'll be so full from having eaten so much fiber and gotten so much nutrient density in the day that literally I won't be as hungry by the time I get to that dinner. Because what happens is a lot of people, they're just trying to fast all day until they get to that Christmas dinner or that Christmas Eve dinner or whatever it may be. So what a lot of people will do is they won't eat food all day until they get to that dinner. Well, guess what's going to happen? You haven't had any fiber in your body. You haven't had a lot of nutrients in your body. And you haven't eaten food all day. So you're going to be starving by the time you get to that meal, and then you're just going to eat everything. And because you're going to eat so fast, your body's not going to have a chance to realize that it is full. And usually that happens much later on when you've already overindulged. And so loading up on high nutrient dense foods, on fiber rich foods throughout the day will allow you to have less craving, already feel satiated in some type of food before you get there. And ultimately, you're going to feel so good that you're less likely to want to contaminate how you're feeling for that dinner. You might, pick a few things that you want to indulge yourself in, which is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the idea is, there's nothing wrong with having a piece of vegan cake. We just don't want to eat the whole vegan cake. And so if we can make you feel good, feel satiated, keep your body aligned, then you're more likely to have a small piece of cake versus eat the whole cake. All right. So that would be tip number one, is focus on high nutrient density foods leading up to that meal, and just play a game to see how much nutrient density you can get into your meals before you get there. So if you think of making a smoothie, can you throw some spinach? Can you throw some kale? Can you throw some frozen cauliflower to add some texture and add some volume? Can you throw, some dates, some bananas? Can you throw some little bit of maca, some spirulina in there, right? How much, just trying to load it up with as much nutrient density as possible. So that would be tip number one, which ultimately narrows it down to eating whole food plant-based, right? So now let's move into tip number two, which is you want to keep your body active during that time of the year. I understand that you guys have been, crushing it all year round, and this is your time to kind of relax, which I absolutely agree with you. But one thing that I found throughout the years of exercising and helping people transform, the lack of exercise is not the thing that makes you feel more restful. A better quality sleep and some naps is what's actually going to make you feel restful. And so a lot of people think when they go on vacation, hey, I'm just not going to work out the whole time that I'm there because I don't want to strain my body because I work hard all the time. Well, guess what happens when you start to miss some workout and you're used to it? You start to feel weaker. You start to feel a little bit more tired because you're not used to that natural boost of energy and those rush of hormones that you get from exercising throughout the week. And so you're actually going to feel more tired by not doing the exercises. And so what we tell our members, at a minimum, you want to do 3 strength training sessions a week, even if it's just 20, 30 minutes, right? That's going to pay massive dividends in terms of your energy throughout that week, because usually it's that odd week between Christmas and New Year's where most people will kind of go off track. They'll kind of overindulge on Christmas. Between Christmas and New Year's, it's kind of like time stopped and everyone's waiting. They're like, the year is kind of done, but the new year kind of haven't started. It's just weird energy. And so if you can get in 3 strength training session and get 7 to 10,000 steps per day throughout that time, it's going to allow you to minimize the damage that potentially could happen for the food that you would be eating. Strength training, again, great for helping build bone density and build lean muscle tissue. Also great for helping you feel energized throughout your week and throughout your day. Getting your steps in is a simple and easy and low impact way to burn more calories throughout the day without drastically increasing your calories. So let's just say you do 10,000 steps in a day, and that helps you burn an additional 1,000 calories, just a random number, 1,000 calories a day from walking throughout the day. Now, if I were to put you on a treadmill and make you run until you burn 1,000 calories, you'll have a very different level of hunger at the end of a run to burn 1,000 calories versus at the end of a full day of walking and burning 1,000 calories. You will not be a lot less hungry from just walking and moving more throughout the day. So it's a simple and easy way, again, that is low impact, that won't drastically increase your hunger, just burn more additional calories. So basically getting your steps in falls under the NEAT category, which is the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which ultimately can account for 15 to sometimes up to 40% of your calories burned throughout the day, when a strength training session or a workout can only account for 5% of your calories throughout the day. So you moving throughout the day is a lot more impactful in terms of your fat loss and burning calories than it is to do a really intense workout. The strength training is there to build the body and to help strengthen the bones, right? So it's essential for that point. But if you want to help to burn some of those calories off, walking, moving more throughout the day is extremely beneficial. And so as tip 2, continuing to do 3 strength training sessions a week and getting your steps in throughout that week, throughout the holidays, will help tremendously. Even so, we've created a challenge for our Fit Vegan members inside of the app where there's points associated to reaching certain habits, like reading, meditating, taking their steps, doing their strength training session, doing their cardio session. We've made a cool bet with them. Once they pass 1,000 points of threshold for the whole month of December, they all get to pick an exercise and they get to build a workout for all of our Fit Vegan coaching team to do in mid-January. So they get to make us suffer, ultimately. They get to reverse the roles. And so a lot of members have been loving that. But I've put at the foundation of that 3 strength training sessions and getting your steps in. Those are worth the most amount of points because that's the thing that's going to have the most impact for you. So if you don't feel like doing a ton of cardio, if you don't feel like exercising 6 times a week, just get your steps in, move throughout the day, do 3 strength training sessions, and you're going to see wonders. All right, so now tip number 3, I've shared this strategy in a previous podcast when it came to handling Thanksgiving, but I'm going to share it again with you for those that haven't heard it before. This is my personal game plan when it comes to any Christmas dinner, family gathering, birthday parties, whatever it may be, where I'm going to have access to food that tends to be a little bit more calorie dense, and it'll be a lot harder for me to control the quality of the food, and obviously don't want to starve myself once I get there or create a big scene. And so here's how I do it. When I wake up in the morning on, for example, Christmas Eve, so I'm going to have a big dinner on the 24th in the evening, I'm going to fast as long as I can. So to me, fast, like I'll also have like a coffee with potentially a little bit of vegan creamer in it. So I focus more on delaying the calories. That's more the principle behind it. So I'll delay as much as my calories as possible. And then around noon, I'm going to have a massive big green smoothie with low calorie fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to use water as the base. Again, I could use unsweet almond milk if I want to, but I'm really trying to save all my calories for the dinner. So I'm going to have water as a base. I'll throw in some mixed berries, so some blueberries, some raspberries, some blackberries, again, very rich antioxidant, very rich in fiber and polyphenol. I'll throw in some spinach, I'll throw in some kale, and then I'll throw in 2 to 3 scoops of plant-based protein powder, right? Again, this is not the most optimal and ideal day for like ultimate health. This is the most ideal day to stay as healthy as possible and stay on track with their body recomposition goal. So I'll have like 2-3 scoops of plant-based protein powder in the smoothie because I know that whatever dinner I'm going to have at the restaurant or at a family gathering, that for sure the amount of plant-based protein will be extremely low on that meal. And so I want to prioritize it earlier in the day. This massive plant-based protein green smoothie. And then maybe I'm going to have a later meal, which will be kind of between lunch and dinner. And I'm going to have some tofu or some tempeh with a ton of vegetables. I'm going to fill myself up on vegetables and tofu and tempeh, with a low calorie sauce on there. I'm going to eat all that because I know that with a block of tofu and 2-3 scoops of plant-based protein powder, I'm at like 90% of my protein for the day. Again, mind you, I'm 6'4", 185 pounds. So for you, you might need a little bit less in terms of your protein for the day. So that's kind of what I do. And then at that point, I've probably used up 600-700 of my calories, potentially. Let's stretch it to 800 calories. And then by the time I get to that dinner, I'll have like 1,500 to 2,000 calories of wiggle room to be able to enjoy myself and have some good food. Now, what ends up happening a lot of the time is at that dinner, I still end up enjoying myself and picking foods that I know that I'm going to enjoy, so I don't feel like I have to be restrictive. I know I've hit my protein for the day because I've prioritized it for the first few meals of the day. I know I've gotten a lot of nutrient density, and then I'm going to eat the food. And because I saved up so much, a lot of the time, I won't be able to eat all of the calories, which I end up under eating for the day, which to me is a much better outcome than overeating for the day, right? But mind you, the next day, I'm still going to be heavier on the scale because whatever that meal was at that dinner, usually there's more salt. It's harder to be accurate on what the calories would be in that meal. And so I know that I have a big budget of calories for that meal. I enjoy myself. Most of the time I end up under eating because I can't eat all of that food. And then the next day my weight's going to be up, but I know that it's just sodium. I know it's just water retention, right? And because I probably ate higher carbohydrate foods throughout that meal and it was pretty low in protein and everything else, I know there's just more water retention that comes with it. So I know that 2-3 days after it'll come back down. So I don't worry too much about the weight coming up overnight because it comes back down after. But that's my personal game plan. I'll delay my calories as much as possible, have a massive plant-based green smoothie, have a block of tofu with a ton of vegetables. So just make a massive stir fry if you want to. And then for dinner, I'm going to enjoy myself. Even if you can put 1,000 calories aside for your dinner for Christmas, whatever it may be, that's a lot of food. You're going to be able to enjoy yourself and have a good time. Because again, I've been vegan for over 10 years now. At first, I liked making a scene that I was vegan. But now, like, I just bring my food when I get there. And a lot of people know that I'm vegan at this point. And so they'll make some vegan options. And because they took the time and effort and to do research and to make an effort to prepare a vegan meal just for me, and usually because my mom is there because she's vegan too now, we don't want to be like, oh, we can't eat that because it's high in calories and blah, blah, blah. We're just like, hey, we will have some of them because we know we have the wiggle room for the day. So it allows us to not create a big scene, enjoy yourself. The person feels like we appreciate them for making that effort, which we do ultimately. And so we don't have to cause a scene, right? So that would be tip number 3. It's personally what I do for every single event. That's how I handled Thanksgiving as well a few weeks ago. All right, so tip number 4, set some boundaries for yourself. Now, you can follow some of the tips that I previously shared in this podcast, but setting boundaries would be important in terms of just setting a simple rule of I'm not going to overeat. I'm going to stop eating when I'm 80, 90% full, right? If you just follow that rule, you will still be able to pick some of the foods that you enjoy, but just learn to listen to your body like, hey, I'm feeling pretty full. Because a lot of time what happens, and hey, I've been there, is you go to a Thanksgiving meal, a Christmas meal, and you just see all the food and you eat so fast because you don't eat like that normally. And then you eat at such a rapid rate that your stomach doesn't have a chance to realize that it is full until it hits you. And then you just feel like a heavy sack of potato. You just feel so lethargic. You just want to take a nap in the lazy boy. You just want to go for a nap ultimately. So if you take your time to eat the food, you pick some things that you choose that you want to allow yourself to enjoy, which is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I say, eating one salad won't make you healthy, just like eating one cookie won't make you unhealthy. You can have some of those treats if you want to. It's not the end of the world. We're going to talk about that in tip number 5. But for tip number 4, just allow yourself to enjoy yourself. But once you feel full, you can stop. Because listen, we've all been there. I used to have a big problem with sugar and salt at one point as well, like eating chips and things like that. Let's be honest. If you eat too much cookies or cake or ice cream or whatever it may be, at one point, your mouth just burns. Like you don't even taste the sugar anymore. You're just eating to eat because, again, the brain is addicted to sugar. So you're just eating to eat, but you can't taste anything anymore. It doesn't taste good. Same thing with the salt. After you had a bunch of chips or snacks that are very salty, eventually your mouth just burns. You don't really taste the flavors of the thing that you are eating. And so, just eat slowly. Allow your body to realize that it is full. And once it is full, just stop, right? Because what a lot of people do from a psychological standpoint is when they get to those meals, they're like, well, I never get to eat like this. And so I'm going to enjoy myself. But I want you to understand that you are a grown adult and you have the ability to eat like that all the time if you want to. And some people do. And that's why they weigh 400, 500, 600, 700 pounds. And so don't lie to yourself and saying like, well, I'm going to enjoy myself and eat all of this food because I normally don't have access to that food. I normally don't eat these foods. Yes, you do. What you're doing by saying that is you're putting that food on a pedestal and being like, it's special. I need to have it, right? If you see it as a random example, a donut, you say, I have to eat the donut because I never am around donuts. I can never eat donuts. I'm like, don't lie to yourself. You can Uber eat some donuts the next day and then the next day and then the next day. So you can have it if you choose to, but don't lie to yourself that you're eating it just because you never have access to it. Like you have the ability to buy that thing every day. So there's nothing special about it. It's just another food, right? So the reason I'm sharing that is because I'm changing the framing from you have the power of making the decision to allow yourself to have that piece of a vegan dessert at Christmas versus, well, I never get to have it, so I'm going to have some, but I feel bad that I have some. Well, I've already messed up. Let me just have more of it. And it's like, well, now that's when the sentence of, oh, when I'm around these types of food, I can't control myself. That's complete bullshit. You do have the ability to control yourself. It's just you're choosing it to frame it that way. And so if you want vegan cake or a vegan dessert or something for your Christmas, have it and own it. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Like you eating a full cake, even if like I'm exaggerating, but if you eat a full cake and you own it, great, cool, no worries. We'll just get back on track the next day, right? Like it's not the end of the world. It's not because you decide to eat a whole cake that you'll never be able to lose weight for the rest of your life. It's not because you eat a whole cake or a whole dish that you won't be able to be fit for the rest of your life. You just own it for the moment. You start to get that power back and then you just get back on track. Which brings me to tip number 5, which is something that I've said probably hundreds of times on the podcast that I repeat to our members all the time, which is win the next meal, win the next workout, right? So I've shared a lot of great strategies for you to stay on track, but guess what? Some of you are not going to use any of them, right? And you're going to fall down to tip number 5 and you're going to have to use what I'm telling you right now. So if you don't use any of the other tips and you overindulge during the holidays, you miss a workout, you eat some terrible food you're not supposed to, whatever it may be. If I was your coach and you come to me and tell me like, hey, I had a half a bottle of wine yesterday and a bunch of vegan dessert, and I ate 6,000 calories for dinner. I would say, great. Hope you had a good time. Hope it was good. Just focus on winning the next meal. Just eat your breakfast. Just go back to eating your snack. Just go back to eating your lunch. Drink your smoothie. Have your dinner. Right? Because there is no world where you will be able to recover from overeating like that. Because what's the other side is like, well, we'll severely cut your food the next day. Well, you might be able to do it for one day, but what happens 2 days after? You're starving because you just cut your food drastically. What if you do a ton of cardio the next day? Because like, oh, I need to burn this off, right? This mindset of like, I need to burn this off. Listen, if you overeat by 2,000 calories, or just grab a lower number because most people overeat by more than that, and you go for a run or you do a bike or Peloton or whatever, maybe for 2,000 calories, guess what's going to happen after you burn 2,000 calories on the Peloton? You're going to be starving. You are way more likely to overeat at that point. And then you're going to overeat. And then you're going to feel bad. And you think you're going to be able to do enough exercise to burn the excess that you just overate for the second day in a row. And then you fall into this vicious cycle of undereating, overexercising. What if we just don't fall into that? What if you enjoyed yourself for Christmas and then the next day you just go, great, I'll have my bowl of oatmeal with my plant-based protein powder and some berries in there. What if I just go back to eating my snack? What if it wasn't that big of a deal, right? Because you have to realize is that I love to think of philosophical concept of how to figure out the transformation. But if you have this timeline to reach your goal, right? It's like, hey, this is how long it's going to take you if you're perfect with it. And you go off track and you eat a whole cake or you enjoy yourself for Christmas, whatever it may be, and you put on a little bit of weight. Guess what happens? The timeline just becomes a little bit longer. Does it mean that the end goal disappears? Does it mean that it's going to be impossible for you to reach your goal? That it means you'll never be able to be fit and lose the weight? No, it just means that the timeline just got a tiny bit little longer, right? And if you continue moving forward, you focus on winning the next meal, eventually you'll get there. Like if you mess up and you continue to beat yourself up about having slipped up and you wait till the next Monday, the next month, the next year, then you're just delaying how long it's going to take for you to get to your goal. Because if you were to walk, if, for example, if it's going to take you 4 months for your transformation and you don't get back on track in the next meal and you wait 1 week, well, you've just delayed that 4-month process by 1 week. So if you wait a month, you just delayed the whole thing by a month, right? And so basically you're just pushing off you getting to your end goal. So if you just focus on getting back on track with the next meal, the next workout, then we're right back at it, right? We've shortened the timeline of delaying you starting and making progression on your goal. And so every time you mess up, all you're doing is just making it a little bit longer. Who cares? Every person messes up. We've coached over 850 plus people at this point, potentially 900. I have to look at the numbers to kind of update them. But every single one of them has slipped up multiple times in their transformation. That's why when I record the Fit Vegan success stories, I try to ask them, what were the obstacles? How did you overcome them? Was this a perfect journey? And every single one of them was like, no, actually life was pretty rough during this time. And I slipped up here, I slipped up there. I did this trip, something happened to my family and I had to navigate and I wasn't as perfect with my training and my nutrition. Like life happens. And so stop thinking that this is going to be perfect throughout the holidays. Literally 99% of you are going to mess up throughout the holidays, right? Who cares? Slipping up does not mean not being able to reach your goal. All it means is it's going to potentially move the deadline, the timeline a little bit more. And then the faster you get back on track, the faster you get there. The more you wait till the next Monday or till January 1st or till January 6th, I think is the next Monday, or the 13th, whatever, all you're doing is you're pushing off the timeline. And so tip number 5 is just win the next meal, win the next workout. If you miss a workout, try not to miss more than 2 workouts in a row. If you had a bad meal, just win the next meal. Just that simple, right? You'll notice the grand effect that it will have on your transformation and your psychology as you start to do that. Because then you're like, oh, well, it's okay to mess up. If I do go off track, I just get back on track. And eventually, as you figure that out and you start to feel for yourself in your body, you start to build some momentum, start to see some results. And as you build momentum and see results, then you're less likely to want to go off track because you're like, I'm doing so well, I don't want to mess this up. But guess what? At one point you will. And you just, same principle, get back on track with the next meal and the next workout. And then that's it, right? So anyways, I hope these 5 tips were helpful for you. I hope that they're going to serve you throughout the holidays, just because it is a stereotype that holidays are the hardest time of the year for most people because they overindulge, right? So enjoy yourself, but with some nice little guidelines and rules that are going to help you to stay on track. And again, if you can make some progression throughout the holidays, that's phenomenal. If we can prevent and prevent weight gain and stay at a neutral, that's phenomenal, because for every pound you gain, you're adding a full week to how long your transformation is going to take. Is it worth it, right? But just know that if you overate and you step on the scale, your weight's probably going to be up like 5 pounds. You can't put on 5 pounds of fat overnight. You can't even put on 1 pound of fat overnight. It is physiologically impossible at 99.9%, right? You would have to eat your maintenance calorie plus 3,500 calories on top of it. So for most people, for some women, you have to eat like 6,000 calories a day to technically put on a pound of fat overnight, right? Majority of you won't go over that. And so if you overeat, you physically have more food in your body. If you ate more salt, there's water retention. If you drink alcohol, there's water retention. So don't beat yourself up if the number on the scale is up. That's why I say just get back on track and then just stick to the game plan, right? Stick to your game plan at that point. If you're in the program, stick to the game plan we've made for you. If you have your own game plan, stick to your game plan. Don't change anything. Don't make an emotion-based decision. That's the biggest lesson I can pass off to you. All right? So again, I'm excited for you guys to crush it throughout the holidays. I hope this podcast was helpful. If it was, let me know in the comment section below. If you have any questions or concerns about the things that I've brought up or potentially scenarios that I haven't talked about, let me know in the comment section below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on audio, feel free to send me an email. You have all of my contact information down below in the description. I want to say Merry Christmas, just because the podcast that will go live before Christmas is one that I recorded a few weeks ago, and I forgot to say Merry Christmas on it. And so I'll say Merry Christmas. This has been such an incredible year so far in terms of the podcast and the growth of our community and the impact that we've been able to have and how much we've been able to support cancer patients this year. I'm going to record an awesome podcast with my beautiful wife, Ivy, before the end of the year. It's the last episode of the year for the top lessons that we've learned this year and the awesome impact that we've been able to have thanks to you guys, and some plans that we have for 2025. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And we will continuously be posting twice a week as promised since the beginning of the year. And we're going to continue that pattern into 2025. And so if you guys enjoyed the episode and you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the channel. If you're watching on the audio, be sure to follow the account because it helps us grow. It helps us have more incredible guests on the show. So Merry Christmas to every single one of you. Enjoy the podcast episode that will come out on Tuesday before Christmas, because it's with an incredible Fit Vegan member that was in a program several years ago. And I did a follow-up with him on his transformation, and his life has completely shifted since he left the program. James is an incredibly funny man. You guys are definitely going to enjoy this episode. I had such a great time recording with him. It's always a fun time talking to him. And so guys, have an incredible day, and I will see you on the episode on Tuesday. Bye.